But as soon as we start measuring something, we start valuing it, and vice versa. We should value what we measure. That's a two-way relationship. And for decades now, we've been saying to youngsters, oh, you know what, physical activity is so important, and it's blatantly not good enough. If it's important, it's not good enough not to know how active the youngsters are.
Rather than trying to spread yourself too thin, look at what does your organisation do? What are you all about? What is it that you're ultimately trying to achieve? And everything you do focused on that. And I think that's a really helpful thing especially when you're a small company and you want to do this and you want to do that and you want to do the next thing. I think really thinking about, okay, what is our purpose? And then what are the things that we need to do to make that happen?
If we were to ask one of your colleagues or clients about your leadership style, what would they say?
Flawed, probably. I would think they would probably suggest it is fairly direct and fairly decisive. So I know myself very well, and I know where I have to temper my directness. I have to practice my listening. I have to practice my empathy, and I have to practice my patience.
I don't understand why we don't learn from the gaming industry. They've managed to capture those children. They've managed to make it easy and simple for the parents. They've managed to touch on every single part of our being to the extent that children and parents are totally hooked on it and can't live without it.
So we've got a great insight from one of the Formula One leaders who talks about how much change goes on within Formula One. 90% of the car gets changed year on year, so there's constant innovation. You've got the commercial team, you've got the legal team, you've got the HR team, you've got the aerodynamics team, you've got the pit crew, you've got the racing team. All of these different elements are all focused on one singular goal, and that's to reduce lap time.
Welcome to the Active Code podcast. Well, I say podcast, this episode isn't a real podcast. This is more of a trailer promo because Luke and I are excited to announce that season 2 kicks off very soon.
Thank you to all of our listeners, and thank you to everyone that has left a review and a rating. And of course, without our guests, you'll be stuck listening to our dulcet tones every week, so we owe a big thank you to all of our guests that have joined us over the past few months. I've really enjoyed listening to all of our guests, and I've picked some great leadership tips up along the way. And I've loved hearing people's opinions and views on how we can get more people moving. I've also got an extensive list of books that I now need to read, following all the recommendations from people.
And to throw another one in there, Luke, I'm reading a book at the moment that's actually focusing on what we talk about all the time in our podcast, getting more people moving. So if you want to go and grab yourself a copy of The Miracle Pill by Peter Walker, I'd highly recommend it. It's a fascinating insight into why we become so sedentary and how we can introduce quick and easy lifestyle changes to slow down the aging process and reverse many illnesses and increase mental well-being. And to share something from the book, we know how inactive we are and how bad the situation is, but Peter Walker shares some information that is pretty shocking. One stating that a recent study found almost half of middle-aged English people don't walk continuously for 10 minutes or more in an average month. And worse, over in America, at current trends, scientists forecast the average US adult will expend little more energy in an average week than someone who spent all of their time in bed.
Moving on to Series 2, we have some inspiring people lined up. Season 2 kicks off with a focus on the sport for development sector, but as ever, we'll also be talking to people operating in the sports coaching sector and industry experts. We promise more leadership insights and more focus on how we can all work together to get more children more active more often.